Hey, Kowalsky here. Welcome back to another Wednesday. Now, with Steinitz out of the picture, literally. Now that Lasker is on the top, he got a new challenger, and there's a name that you might know, and his name is Frank Marshall. Now, how did it come to this match? Marshall won the Cambridge Springs tournament in 1904, and he actually won it over Lasker, and that hadn't happened in over 10 years at that point. So therefore, Lasker agreed to a match, although he was kind of busy with some mathematics stuff. So Lasker just destroyed Marshall. He really destroyed Marshall. Now, keep in mind this format is first to 8 wins, and in this study that I found by, of course, FMR. Now I want to thank him. In the description, it always says that the studies are by him, but this time we actually have some annotations. But okay, we can work with that also. So we have game number 1 here, and Frank Marshall has the white pieces, Emanuel Lasker has the black pieces, and I'm gonna tell you from the start, the colors are gonna stay the same for all 3 games. I'm gonna show you 3 games, and the colors are gonna stay the same in all 3 games. So we have e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5. So okay, the Spanish, and here knight f6, d4. And we enter kind of like the Berlin defense, and e takes on d4. This is also played today with the continuation castles, obviously. And here now, in modern times, really the move a6 is played, and this leads to various moves. If bishop a4 is played, then we have maybe b5 or bishop e7. Those are some normal lines. But if bishop takes, well, then obviously you go d takes, and then you have e5, and like a completely other game, knight e4, and this score is pretty good for white, actually. So castle bishop e7, right? This is a very standard game even by modern times. Knight takes on d4, and here now a knight to f5, d5 key move, and here we have this following trade, and it's actually that the position never happened. In modern times white doesn't actually usually trade the bishop, but okay, rook e1, and now let's see how black really tries to untangle himself, because the bishop is not that good, but okay, the position is equal because white's pieces are also not developed. Now you cannot take this pawn, obviously, because of f3. So what are you gonna do? Queen to h4, now attacking this f2 pawn. So bishop to e3 defends, and now f6. Very interesting idea, f6, but the follow-up is what makes this game special. After the move f3 attacking the knight, well, Lasker laughs in the face of danger and just takes this pawn in the center, sacrificing his knight. But his idea was that he's gonna play d4, and now you cannot go back bishop to f2, right? Because this square is controlled by the black pieces, and you also cannot go bishop back to d2, because now you would get the move bishop g4, and after you would try to save your queen, now you would get brutalized by the move rook to f2, and this just it's just crushing, right? And here if you try to go back, let's say to c1, now you actually get checked, and after king to h1 you get the same idea with bishop g4, and now you cannot take, and your queen is getting trapped. So therefore, right, Marshall sees this attack coming and he plays the move g3, which is a mistake. I mean, he maybe should have played the move queen to d2, and this would have been fine because you get out of all the pins, and yes, you give the piece back, but the way that he gave the piece back is not optimal. So now we enter this endgame, which is actually equal. So Black managed to get into a slightly better endgame because he has the open file and he can get his rook active first. Now, if if White would have activated the pieces himself faster, then the position would have actually probably turned into a draw. And I have a really long sample line that I've looked at. Like, for example, even if you give up a pawn or two as Black, I'm gonna just fast forward here. Even if you give up a couple of pawns here. Rook b8 check, let's say like this, you're always gonna be active enough and you're gonna be able to get these pawns yourself. But okay, after the move c4, now this is a mistake. You don't want to take you don't want to take en passant here, because after the knight takes, now it's actually White who has a better structure. Suddenly these pawns become a huge liability, but instead you want to attack, swing the rook over, attack the pawn, make the king come back and defend, and now c5, and you consolidate this. You don't allow knight to c3, so okay, knight to d2, but now you bring in the king. Okay, you get checked, no problem. You swing the king over. You see, Lasker always allows his bishop access. He doesn't go king to e6 here. And here comes the final mistake that Marshall makes in this game. He plays this move a3, which weakens the queen side greatly, and now Marshall just swings his rook back and over here. And after he gets this attack going, well, now you can really see how tied down White is, and it's only a matter of, as I like to call it, conversion at this point. So White tries to push this pawn, right, tries to be a little bit defensive, because yes, Black cannot touch this knight, but Black has an insanely active king, and this knight is effectively paralyzed. So you swing the rook over, and now you just push the pawn, right? You make an axis for your king, and now you happily trade rooks. And after king f2, now you just make waiting moves, and you put basically White in a zugzwang, and you just take all of the pawns that White has, and then you find a configuration where you can just push the pawn to victory, because the knight cannot come back anymore. Like even like knight here, okay, you just check, right, and then you push here, for example, and then okay, let's say king c3 happens, you just make a queen. Obviously you're winning. Okay, so we saw how this opening variation went with the e45. Now Marshall tried something different. This is game number 3, and basically Marshall is down 2-0 at this point. Again, first weight wins, and this is game number 3. So we have a Queen's Gambit declined, a very classical variation. This has been played thousands and thousands of times. Now where this kind of deviates from the normal line is this move right here, 94. This isn't as played today because here you don't really want to take the knight. This is not really considered the top move, mainly I think because this pawn kind of controls this squares and it's kind of annoying. And but the move here is c takes on d5, and now you would go into this variation, but we're gonna cover this exact variation in a later game. So now we have bishop d3, and we still have this trade, and now knight to d7, and knight to f3. So now we have castles, and rook to d8. So all standard moves up until this point. Queen to c2, again, all very standard. The ideas are pretty common. And now knight f8. This is a little bit of an unusual way to guard your pawn. Here d takes on c4 could have been tried, because this is not really a problem, as you cannot retreat your bishop right now. So you're forced to play a move like knight d2, prepare this bishop to e4, but you're not allowed to do that, and you're forced to sacrifice the bishop. So you know, maybe Lasker didn't like this whole bishop sacrifice, so he played knight back to f8, guarding this pawn. Okay, now knight to e5, because the square is just opened. c5, the most crucial break in all these positions, because you know, you want to just attack the center and make it weak for your rooks and maybe bishops to attack. So rook a to b1, and now queen swings over to c5. And again, this is what is being prepared here. So queen b3. Okay, now you're putting pressure on d5. b6, defending this c5 square, and now again preparing this annoying bishop a6 move. So we have c takes on d5, finally solving some of the tension in the center. Queen to a4, and now bishop to b7. As you know, you cannot go bishop to a6, and you want to go bishop to b7. Activate, connect the rooks, and so on. Rook to d6, and now the double up is prepared. Maybe even a rook lift to h6 and some pressure here. But okay, queen g4, you're not really allowed to do whatever you want, and rook e8. Queen back to g3 now kind of sets up a little bit of a pin, maybe. You know, if the knight ever moves to a interesting square, so to say. But okay, rook d to e6, you don't really have anything. That's what Lasker says. But white is better in this position. White is definitely better, and you just have to prove it. And the way to prove it is kind of dubious. Like, okay, the top engine move, at least on a relatively low depth, is a4. But a4, you know, yes, you see a plan here, maybe, or maybe even a5, but it's very modern, a very modern concept. And also the other move is knight back to f3. You're never gonna play that. You know, in 1907 when they're playing. So bishop to f5 is tried, which is not a bad move, but it allows black to kind of stabilize a little bit. And now this f4 move actually greatly weakens white, and this is gonna come back to bite Marshall. So we have this bishop trade, and now this looks like Swiss cheese right here, this light squares. And you know, all that Lasker does is defend the pawn, and now bring back the rook. And this is gonna be a nasty tactic, and I'm gonna show you the moment that it becomes a nasty tactic right now. So you can play c takes on d4, and after the move e takes on d4, because obviously if you go c takes on d4, this, you know, you would lose the rook. E takes on d4, now you play the move f6, and after knight back to d3, now you just go either for knight to e6, or you can actually even take the pawn here. And after this trade, now you just have a pin, and you're winning. You're comfortably winning this position. Yes, you're gonna have to convert it, obviously, but you're comfortably winning this position. So after h3, h6 is tried. Okay, Lasker is not so short. He wants to activate his knight. Now c takes on d4 is possible again. Now it's even stronger, but you know, Lasker decides to go for knight to h7 instead, which is not a bad move. He's still winning by a mile here, but he makes a small inaccuracy. Now you know, I'm gonna show you the game, and knight to e4 is the inaccuracy, because it allows this very brutal move, knight takes on f7, and now white is actually back in the game. Here, you know, we're gonna come back to this position in a minute, but here there was a line, a very interesting line, g6, and after queen to d3, now you play queen to a3, attacking this pawn 3 times, and now after the move knight to g6, well, you don't want to take, obviously, because now you're gonna lose the knight and the game, but you want to play knight e4 now, and white is totally paralyzed, a hanging knight. You want to save that knight, but it's all too late now. Like, just look at this. I mean, you're dead here. You can, you know, like, the best move is actually queen to f3. Yes, queen to f3. At least that's what computer says on low def, but you know, that just sounds stupid, right? Okay, you're gonna get the two rooks, but still, I mean, you might not even take the queen. Anyways, coming back to our variation, right, from this position, it's actually white will find a way to equalize here, and it's because black is very hesitant. Here black had basically a tactical solution to the whole position, and I believe Lasker saw this variation, and he decided not to go for this because it's very vague, right? Black is up a pawn, but you know, maybe white finds a way to actually hold the position. So instead he goes queen to g5, defending the d5 pawn this way. But now after king h2, this is a huge mistake that Marshall makes, and this really allows now Lasker to really get in. But you take this pawn with check, and now king to h1, the only move. King to h1 is the only move, because let's say you just you don't really have any other moves, because you know, white's threat is just to checkmate you, and you don't really have, like, let's say just a4. Now you're just getting mated. Okay, king h1 is made, but okay, let's say king f1. Now you're just gonna get checked, and you're gonna get mated. So king to h1, a very crucial move, and now knight to f3 still threatening mate, but now you can take the knight and you're actually fine. That's surprising. So you lose this with check, and it's actually a draw. And keep in mind, you know, black's actually down the whole rook. So rook f4 is played, and now this is just there's only one way to hold this, and that way is to go queen to h5 and give up the queen and have this position, this endgame to hold. But Marshall didn't want to do that, so he gave Lasker a check. But now he played a huge one move blunder that completely ends the game on the spot. He actually resigned on a nice move, rook to f5, and mate is simply unstoppable. Like, if you want to stop this, well, let's say, I mean, you try to do this, but now you get checked, and after king to g1 or g2, it doesn't really matter, you just get mated. It's brutal, but that was just a very nice game played by Marshall, and he just failed to draw it in the end. So now we skip to the very last game, and you know, I told you at the beginning the match was just completely brutal. I mean, Lasker just absolutely destroyed Marshall, and he beat him. You know. I think it was, yeah, in 15 games he got 8 wins and 7 draws. He was undefeated throughout the whole match. He won 4 games with black, 4 games with white, and just ended the game 8-0, because only wins count. So he just, I mean, 8-0, come on. And the colors are still the same. So Lasker is with black, Marshall is with white, and you already know who the winner is, but let's just see the fashion and the way that it's done. So now we have the same variation as last game, and now I told you about this variation, this more modern variation with knight takes on c3, and we have this kind of triangle structure with the bishop already being traded. This is you know, like, I think a pretty modern concept of playing the opposite of your bishop, and this is actually, I think, a position that I would enjoy with white. So you know, it actually has a lot of opportunities. So now we have c6 and c4. Well, now castles and knight f3, queen to c7, and rook to c1. Again, all normal moves. You have this pin on the queen, right? So now we have queen a5, solving this pin, rook to c3, because you don't really want to go with your knight back here, and now knight to d7, finally developing. Now here, you know, in our times, maybe a move like d takes on c4 could have also been played, because you know, you're not really afraid of anything here. It's actually pretty funny. Oops. Now you can go knight to d7, and you know, there's white is better, but there's a lot of play still left, obviously. So knight to d7, it's not a mistake or anything. Knight to d2 is a mistake though. Why? Because you I mean, you don't really want to unpin this way. You would like to unpin, obviously, and go castle, but you wouldn't want to play a move like bishop e2, because now you're gonna get hit with knight to b6, and you're gonna get pressured here on this pawn. And now with castles, then okay, d takes on c4, and now after you take with the bishop, you're just gonna get into a very equal and dry position. You don't wanna do that. But the alternative to knight d2 is queen to a3. And now this move is pretty hard to spot, because now what you're admitting to is that, well, you're just not gonna have queens, and you're gonna have to play a long and again dry endgame. And you know, that's something that Magnus Carlsen would do, but it was not in Frank Marshall's style. C5 by Lasker in this position, such a great move. Why? Again, the classic break, and now you really have a lot of room to go wrong. If you take this pawn, for example, knight takes on c5, comes with an attack on the queen, queen to a3 now, but now you don't trade anymore. It's actually funny, you go knight to a4. And okay, rook to b3, let's say, you move out of harm's way. Now bishop to d7, you guard your knight, and now you're free to move your queen. And here, for example, rook to b4 could be tried, right, to attack, but now you just play rook f to c8, and you attack this pawn here. And it's so simple. Okay, you want to kick out my queen, fine, I'll go back, but like, okay, you want to take 2 pieces for the rook, again, fine, b5. I mean, you cannot take, because you're just gonna get destroyed. And so you have to go okay, I mean, let's say you take, right, just for the example, now you have to go back, and I mean d4, and this is opened up, your king is still in the center, you're dead here. So after c5, there's again a lot of room to go wrong. Even taking this pawn is wrong, because now you're again opening up the position a lot. So we have this following trade, and now just knight f6, you just want to take this pawn. Okay, bishop e2, finally you want to untangle. You don't take the pawn, you go in, because the knight is pinned. Now there's no way white could castle. So queen to d3 defends and attacks, but bishop to f5, and okay, you get to castle, because you cannot take here, you would lose this, and actually take with the rook. And then okay, white is better, because white has a pawn plus, but here you go for this knight to g3, very nice move, and here you're forced to give up the exchange, because otherwise you would have to give up your queen. Or I mean, let's say you play a move like, well, you cannot move the queen, because you're gonna lose this. Also, you're gonna lose this with check. You don't have any other way. So you know, you have to give up the exchange. Now you don't want to take the knight, because you're gonna lose your knight, and the queen is gonna get into the position, and you don't want to do that. So e4 is right, keeping pieces on the board. Maybe you're gonna be able to do something as white, but I mean, you know, just black slowly creeps in, knight to g6, right, getting out of harm's way. Knight to c4, now pretty interesting move, but just swing the queen over. Again, you have a lot of pressure and a lot of geometry working your way. Bishop f1 trying to defend, b5 now getting the knight out, and knight to f4. So right, slowly moving forward. Queen to g3, huge mistake here. If queen f3 was played, now we would have had probably a different story, because this move actually kind of offers white some sort of play here. You have to find the best move, which is knight back to e6, as black, I'm very confident Lasker would have found it, but it's not so easy, because you just go knight back to b3, and you have to play a lot of moves here. You have to play it slow, queen to d3, and again, there's room to go wrong here for black. It's not so easy. So queen to g3 really brings an end to this horrendous series of games by Marshall, because of this move queen f6, which is just crushing, because you're attacking this, also you're putting pressure on this, and you know, that's pretty much all. And you know, you're just preparing just demolition. Yes, you can defend here, but okay, queen takes on d6, and now, well, everything is kind of hanging and loose. You take a pawn, but that's the last pawn you'll get because this move could have been played. And this is again a very beautiful tactic. Now you have to block with the bishop, otherwise this would be fatal. And here you just go, only move again, queen to a6. This is pinned, you're attacking this, king to f2, and now you just pick up the knight very nicely and you're just completely winning here. This would have been a very nice way to end the game, but instead we have the move queen to b6, which is still winning. And now just knight back to e6. You're forced to take the knight, otherwise this would be hanging, and now you're just in a very bad position. e5, putting pressure on this. You obviously cannot take this as pinned. King to f1, rook to b8 now, attacking the knight moves, you take, and here after rook c8, white resigns because you can try queen d5, maybe king h8. Okay, you move in, that is a knight back, but it doesn't matter now. You just lost. I mean, you can get checked from anywhere. You're just gonna lose here. For example, queen d8, rook d8, or anything really wins. That's why it's kind of pointless to even show lines at this point. You're just gonna make the queen move, and then you're just gonna pick up the knight. So I think these games were very nice, very instructional, and I actually personally enjoyed the games a lot. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. I see you on in the next one. Kowalsky.